Alrighty, hello every folks, and good morning, welcome to a quick little PSA here. So, the first three Armored Core games just made it over to PSN. Now, you might be saying, wait a minute, but Armored Core 1 was available on the PSP. Like, that thing's been around for a really long time now. What the hell are you talking about? The first three ones just made it over. Well, technically speaking, these versions are a little different from the original releases. As far as how different they are, I honestly can't say for sure, but I did notice a few things as well as also heard a few things, so let's go ahead and discuss that. So, first of all, this is going to be the original Armored Core, as well as Project Phantasma, as well as Master of Arena. These seem to have some visual improvements, though they're not really out of the ordinary if you've played them on PSP and Vita before, since they have had a lot of those visual improvements in the past. So that part's not necessarily anything too special. However, it is notable that it does seem to run at a very consistent frame rate. So while you do see the typical jank and jitter that this game's known for, I say this game, I mean they're basically all like one big game for all intents and purposes. You can kind of think of it as like you had Armored Core, then Project Phantasma was a small DLC, then Master of Arena was the full-blown expansion pack. But then, yeah, you have all of the classic control jank and everything else, but it does seem to run at a very consistent frame rate. So overall, this feels like the smoothest way to play it. If you happen to potentially have been holding off on playing these games due to how difficult it was to dodge at 30 FPS or whatever, but. Anyways, as far as the smoothness of the game, that's all well and good. The visuals seem more or less the same. There's very little that seems to have changed in terms of visuals. There's maybe some improvements on some of the AC models, but pretty much everything else looks identical. Sound, gameplay, everything else-wise, everything seems the same. I don't see anything like what we saw with the PSP release of like hidden parts acting weird or something. But those were kind of an exceptional case where they kind of re-stretched a bunch of PS2 stuff into the PSP, which resulted in some weird hitboxes, but thankfully we don't see that here. It does seem to be fairly one-to-one here. But they did actually change some stuff on the software end. So one disappointing thing, first of all, if you did own the original PSP version, or PS3 version, or whatever else, just kind of like the classic version of Armored Core 1 on your account already, it does not count in this instance. I'm sorry. I was very disappointed by that too. But yeah, it does not count in this instance because they technically changed some stuff software-wise. Partially, like at the very least, I know that they smushed together the multiple discs of Master of Arena into one thing, so all of it's just on one menu. So that's nice. I would say it's the definitive version of Master of Arena at the very least, which is really the main one that I was after anyway, so it works for me. But if you were after, let's say, playing Phantasma or AC1 for the first time, I personally would recommend just trying out AC1, seeing if you like it. Like, if you really, really need extra, go back for Project Phantasma, but just like AC1 and Master of Arena are kind of the big ones to kind of go after here. Also, I just noticed, sorry, I still have the mouse on screen, that's my bad. But yeah, so they did smush together the different multiple discs into one thing. It does run smoother at the very least. $10, I guess, is standard for this kind of thing, so it is what it is. That being said, I haven't really noticed any other changes as far as these go. You do have access to things like the save states and rewinds and stuff like that, as you'd kind of expect here. So that's nice. And yeah, that's kind of about it. Downsides, though. Obviously, aside from the price, you also have the unfortunate downside that it uses that whole touchscreen thingy, or rather touchpad thingy, for some of its controls, which is kind of annoying in my opinion, but just kind of a whatever situation. Sometimes it bugs you, sometimes it doesn't. I personally don't like the touchpad thing very much, but whatever. It's there, it does its thing, it is what it is. Trying to think if there's anything else to really cover here. I mean, again, definitive version as far as Massive Arena goes, a version as far as Armored Core 1 goes. Project Phantasma, it's alright. It's got probably the most colorful boss in the series, but it's like our Project Phantasma, despite introducing the arena features, which is my favorite thing in every one of these games, it's just really one hell of a short game, to be honest. It definitely feels like a DLC. Whereas Master of Arena is just like, here you go, here's like, I think it's like, what is it, like 250 arena fights or something like that. A whole new campaign, as well as a bunch of other stuff. I think it's got like 3 separate arenas, including extra arenas in which you have to match the leg types of your opponent and stuff like that. Either way, really fun games, really nice classics. Again, if you only were to buy one of them, definitely go Master of Arena. It is fairly difficult, just so you're aware, but you can do things like creating your own AI AI arena and stuff like that, so you can make your own custom arena. It's got the most parts and everything else. There was one downside that people mentioned that allegedly, I say allegedly because I don't know how thoroughly this has been tested yet. Allegedly, you can't transfer data from the original AC1 over to the other games, meaning that you might not have access to Human Plus for Project Phantasma and Master of Arena. And I say allegedly because I just don't buy in the like 30 minutes since the game was released that somebody managed to complete the entirety of AC1 and try to transfer their data over to Project Phantasma. It just does not compute as far as timing goes. But again, that might be the case, it might not be the case. Personally, I don't care because I never use Human Plus because I always was weirdly of this opinion that the game would just become cursed and just refuse to let me have a good ending if I used Human Plus. That it was just too dirty. But either way, fun games. And yeah, they're out on PSN at this point, so go give them a little bit of a look. It's a chance to support the classics of the series officially, and I hope that somehow this means that somewhere down the line, maybe we'll eventually get to the point that we get to see some like AC Nexus, or just basically just bring all the PS2 games from the Armored Core series up to something. Like just hell, at least the PSP ones. Let them experience the modern day. Like it's weird that the AC3 remake is over a decade old at this point. It's like 15 years old. And that's the PSP remake. So yeah, them suckers have been sitting in the very bottom of the dustbin for way too long. So I'd love to see the PS2 games make it to something relatively modern. Yeah, you can play them on emulation on a Steam Deck, and that's personally, I prefer playing them on a PS Vita as far as the PSP versions, and then, obviously some of them like Nexus and Ninebreaker never left the PS2, unfortunately. And yeah, it's just a weird state that the series is in. So AC6 knocked it out of the park. The first 3 finally got re-releases. Please, Sony, FromSoft, somebody, give us the PS2 games. I am begging you. Like, just, I already overpaid for this for this thing. Just like, come on, give me the PS2 games. Gimme. Like, you want to pull that extortion racket. Let's go. All right. Y'all take care. Have yourselves a good one, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.